Hello, hello. I am live here with David Fielding. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. I am doing well.
Good to hear. Well, I appreciate you taking some time to chat with me today. We are gonna, of course, talk all things Power Rangers, but also talk a little bit about Chicago and C2E2 and this little appearance you've got coming up here
Yeah,
at a pretty fun convention.
super excited. Super excited to join the other three guys there. It's going to be great. So,
It's going to be an awesome time. So, in case you don't know, C2E2, March 27th, 28th, and 29th, McCormick Place in Chicago, the annual big get together that Reed Pop throws down there yearly. It's going to be a great time. A huge exhibitor floor, plenty of celebrities. And with all that being said, what do you anything in particular you're looking forward to with coming to C2E2?
oh no, just spending time with Jason Font and Michael Copon and Andrew and just hanging out, meeting everybody, and just soaking up the vibes. It's going to be awesome. So
This is your first C2E2, right?
it is. It is. It's a show I've wanted to do for like a decade, and I know it operates different than a lot of other conventions and stuff. So, but the opportunity presented itself, and so I jumped at it. So, yeah.
It's awesome. One of my favorite things about C2, like I do a lot of conventions with media and such, but one of my favorite things about C2 is their artist alley is no joke. I mean, it is sprawling, it is massive. I'm sure there'll be tons of Power Rangers artwork with the little presence that's going on there. But yeah, it's there's something for everybody. It's a really fun convention.
Yeah, I got to attend New York Comic Con one time, and
Hmm.
that's I think a 5 day event. And man, you talk about feeling tired at the end of the day. But again, like you talk about Artist Alley, they had so much stuff. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, and I like those big kind of variety shows. If you're into anime, if you're into celebrities, if you're in whatever you're into, there's plenty
Yeah,
to choose from.
yeah.
So, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you're going to be sharing a spot with Jason Font, with Michael Capon, Philip Andrew. I've actually had the pleasure of chatting with Jason on the show floor a couple of years ago. So,
Nice,
are,
nice.
are you looking forward to catching up with some fellow Ranger alumni?
Yeah, I mean, Philip and I did a show last year, and we had a great time together. And Jason and I have done things together, and Michael as well. I mean, they're all great guys, and it's going to be a fun time. I mean, they're a lot taller and more handsome than I, so I mean, I don't know, but I mean, it's all right. It'll all right.
Yeah, you can bounce off of each other. You all have a good time. Yeah,
Glad to bring the old grandpa in. That'd be fine. Yeah.
Formula 350 does a really good job. They have Rangers there almost every year, and they do a really good job of bringing in a variety of people. Last year it was Kat Sutherland and Nakia Burris. So yeah, just kind of always a fun little group that intermingles together. And from my experience, their table is always very busy. So I think you'll be shaking
Yeah.
a lot of hands and talking to a lot of fans.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.
So, that's like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about C2E2, but of course, we got to talk about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So let's rewind back to the early 90s,
Okay.
the start of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah.
You get casted for the role of Zordon. How did this first get introduced to you? How did the role get presented to you?
Well, I'll roll back even further. So when I went and did my undergraduate college work at Southwest Texas State University in San
Mhm,
Marcos, Texas, and this was like 1984 till about 1988, something like that.
mhm.
And while I was there, I made a lot of friends. We did a lot of theater, a lot of experimental stuff, and then. Um, from there, I went on to do my master's degree at the University of Pittsburgh, while a bunch of the
Mhm.
friends that I had made at Southwest, they had moved out to California.
Oh, okay.
So when I was through doing the 3 year master's program and went out to California after that, I already had like a network of friends that were out there from people that I knew from Texas.
Mhm.
One of those persons being Stacy Fish, who was working at Saban at the time as one of their second unit production people that worked on a lot of the movies that they did that went straight to video back in then.
Okay.
And she had called me up. This was like 2 months after I had arrived in LA. I was just getting, settled and figuring out where to go, what I needed to read, where would I pick up my auditions and all that kind of stuff. And she called me and said, "Hey, listen, I'm working on this kid's television pilot, and they're auditioning for this part, and I think you'd be great for it. Do you want to come down and read?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I came here."
Right.
And I went down there thinking that it was going to be like any other audition. There would be like 15,000 guys there. I would get my size. I would read it into a camera for a casting agent's assistant or whatever, and then I would go home and never hear anything. But it turned out to be a lot different than that. And when I got down to the place where they wanted to meet, it was just me and another guy, and they said, "We're casting it tonight. Are you available to film next week?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And so they took the other gentleman in first, and was in there for 20, 30 minutes, and he came out, and then they brought me in and introduced me to the director and the producers. I met the original cast, and then they had me stand up on a table and read the lines. And I remember after I was done, Austin St. John said, "Well, I think we found our Zoltar," which was the name of the character at the time. And then I went home, and a couple hours later, got the phone call saying, "Congratulations, you were cast." And then I got filmed the next week. So that was that.
That's a quick turnaround then to be sitting there one day
Yeah,
and a
I
week
felt it
later.
was very unusual, but then I learned that it's not as unusual as I think it is. There have been other things that kind of move that quickly. So yeah, but for me, it was like, wow, this is quick, bang, bang. So
What was going through your mind in those 20 to 30 minutes when the other gentleman was in there talking to everybody?
um, I was just trying to, put everything that I had learned,
Hmm.
and so they always say that lightning strikes or it takes a great amount of luck to do things, but I think you can really sort of you're best relying on. I mean, I when I was there, I was prepared for the moment. I had done all this
Hmm.
training, I had done all this work, so I wasn't nervous. I wasn't worried about anything. I thought I'm just going to go in there and doing the best that I can, and that's what I did. And luckily for me, that was the vocal tone that they wanted. I guess I had the right facial look that they were
Hmm.
okay with, and I was the guy who got the call that day. So
And the rest was history.
yeah, now it's all my fault.
So, you mentioned earlier, with Jason and Michael and Philip and all of them, you kind of joked about they're bringing Grandpa along, and like you said, Austin St. John had said, "We think we found our guy." You serve the character Zordon serves as the mentor, the leader of the Power Rangers. Did you kind of feel as a mentor of sorts on set with the rest of the cast as well? What was that dynamic like?
Well, I mean, I was after we recorded or filmed for the pilot. Um, of course, I was told, we'll call you if it gets picked up, because
Sure,
at this point it was still sort of like a pilot; it hadn't been picked up yet. But I
sure.
think I think they knew that it was going to go, but they were just sort of like being conservative and saying,
Mhm.
we'll call you or whatever. And so when I got the call, I was very excited. I was like, wow, I just moved out here and I'm on a TV series. That's awesome. But then I found out that they were not going to film me anymore, and I was
Mhm.
not going to be on set with the other Rangers. I was just going to come in, and much like how they recycled the Japanese fight footage and stuff,
Right.
they were just going to recycle all the footage they filmed of Zordon, and I would go in and do the voice and that sort of thing. So I had this sort of like bittersweet moment of like, oh, it's not going to be what I wanted it to be. Because I was really looking forward to the on-set experience of going to work every day and being there and seeing how all the actors go through their process and
Mhm.
seeing how things were done behind the scenes and that kind of thing. And I never got to visit the command center set. All the other sets, I never saw any of that thing. So I was very much like Zordon. I was very separated from everybody because when I would go into the lines, it was generally just me, maybe Tony Oliver, the head
Mhm.
writer, and the engineer, and then I would just do my lines to whatever footage was playing on the screen, and then I would go home. And so I felt very separate, and like I said, I mean, all the cast was there when we filmed the pilot, but then I didn't see them again for 20 years.
Right.
Oh, I mean, it was crazy. Yeah.
Have you had a chance to catch up with a lot of them on convention circuits
Oh
and things
yeah,
like
yeah.
that?
When I attended my first Power Morphicon in 2014, David Yost and Walter Jones and Austin St. John were there, and I actually got a chance to had to have somebody bring me over there and introduce it, and they knew who I was. They immediately
Sure.
were like, "Oh my gosh, we haven't seen you," and it was almost immediately like being welcomed back into the family. So and that's always been the experience with any of the Rangers that I meet for whatever season. And I keep saying this over and over, but I don't know what it is about the casting process for Power Rangers, but they always seem to grab these guys that have like these really big hearts.
Hmm.
They're all true heroes. I mean, or at least they know how to present that hero when the time is right and when it's needed and stuff. But they're great people. I just like hanging out with them, So
That's awesome, and that honestly lines up with just about with every ranger I've ever talked to. I had Kat and Nakia on around this time last year, around C2E2 time, and they talked about how close they've become since the
oh yeah,
show, and that's 20 years ago, and they're like sisters. So
yeah,
there is something in that casting. I don't know what it is, but there is something there that just seems to bring the best of people together.
yeah. I mean, Karen Ashley, Walter Jones, David
Hmm.
Yost, Steve Cardenas, all these guys. I mean, they're always fun to hang out with. I mean, we're people too, so we might have moments where we're a little, annoyed about something, but for the most part, meeting fans is like it's a great job. So yeah,
It's going to be a good time in Chicago that last weekend of March. You'll have a great cast around you at that table.
yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
So, well, speaking of all things Power Rangers, you came back in 2019 for the Battle for the Grid video game.
Yeah.
Now, did it feel different voicing for a video game versus the TV show? I mean, from what you described, voicing the TV show kind of followed a lot of the video game protocols of just you and a director and an engineer.
Yeah, well, what was great about the Battle for the Grid because Kyle Higgins was there, and Kyle was the guy that really sort of like made that thing happen. And Kyle and I have spent a great deal of time talking, and because I'm a writer and he's a writer, and so we share those kind of things. And I just love the fact that Kyle and the comics that he did for Boom,
Mhm.
that did the whole Shattered Grid and Lord Draken stuff, really keeping the bright and colorful
Mhm.
aspect of what the show was, but then also making the tone a little bit darker and a little bit more mature in
Mhm.
that way. So I think when I was doing the voice for Zordon for that, which was a great speech that Kyle had written about, trying to reach out to everybody that can hear, and being able to say that again, I mean, that generated one of my most favorite Power Ranger moments ever because we got to do the live read of the Shattered Grid comic book at Power
Mhm.
Morphicon. And that was the first time I got to sit at a table and act with a lot of my fellow Ranger actors, including Barbara
Sure.
Goodson, who played Rita. And that was the first time we got to trade lines back and forth in character. And and Kyle had arranged to have my microphone have the same sort of echo effect that it had on the
Uh,
show, which nobody else knew about. So when I started my lines and there was this booming echo voice, everybody in the room just kind of audibly gasped. And Peter Sodarso, who was sitting next to me, was like, "Oh my God, it's Zordon!" And I mean, that's one of my favorite moments of being able to play that character, which then I tried to bring back to the video game. But it was great. I really, really enjoyed doing that.
that's and to go back to what you were saying with the comics, I think part of I grew up a Power Rangers fan, of course, and I think part of the allure is those bright colors. Like
Yeah,
my favorite color was always blue, so I'd see this, big blue,
yeah,
it blew everything, and then all of the fighting choreography and everything. But it's kind of my generation that's grown up with it, and now
Yeah.
they can read a comic book that has some darker themes to it, so it meshes that like childhood nostalgia with growing up and being able to handle those more darker adult themes.
Sure, sure. And if you've watched the Sentai that
Mhm.
Zoo Ranger that Power Rangers is based on, it's a lot darker than the
It
American show. And getting a chance to meet the actors that were in that show was
mhm.
also an amazing experience because, I mean, I grew up watching Ultraman and Spectre Man and lots of kaiju stuff. I loved all the dubbed Japanese films that they would bring over, and so
Mhm.
when they explained to me what the show was about, I'm like, yeah, I know what this is.
Right.
This is nothing new to me. This is great, and so I get to be a part of a superhero show. That's cool, and but yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really wild how the colors and the music and everything else from the show just kind of like came together and just exploded the pop culture thing there. So
And here we are, all these years later, still talking about the original series. And of course, there's so much that's happened since then. But again, I'm biased because I kind of come from that generation. But there's just something about that original that made it the
yeah, I
franchise
mean, it
we
was
all love.
interesting. It was very interesting living through it because
Sure.
when I left LA, I kind of forgot about it, and for a
Mhm.
long time, didn't hear anything about it because we didn't have social media. We didn't
Right.
have Instagram or Facebook or any of that stuff. The only way you got any news about pop culture stuff is if you went to like the bookstore and picked up a
Mhm.
magazine that was talking about all that stuff, Fangoria or whatever magazine it
Mhm.
was. And there were a couple of magazines that were dedicated to Sentai, and that's where you found all of your kaiju stuff and but then like when Facebook happened and around 2011 I started getting messages from strangers saying, "Hey, weren't you that guy?"
Oh
And I
my
was like
God.
going, because for me, being on Power Rangers was just sort of like a nice little anecdote that I could tell people at parties.
Right.
I was on this kids TV show, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, whatever happened to that show? And then you start to do a little research, and like, oh dang, man, it lasted a long time, and there was all this other kind of stuff, and I was like, oh wow. And so being brought back into that world was it was very very cool, and also sort of like eye opening, and like, wow, this is huge. People, and I had no idea the amount of merchandise, the toys, all
Mhm.
the different Zords and stuff. I was like, wow, this is crazy.
It was more far reaching than you realized.
Yeah, yeah. And to be a part of something that has lasted this long and still entertains people and stuff, that's really cool. So yeah.
And I think one cool thing is we're now seeing, you talked about social media, and of course now, you've got live streaming with Netflix and Hulu and HBO. I can't keep track of how many streaming services I have, and I know I'm not alone in that. It's become higher than it would be if I was just paying Comcast for cable, but that's
Right.
that's another story for another podcast. But the original series is now being upscaled. It's being released on Netflix. There's a new toy line that's going along with it, and it's like I talk to friends that are watching that with their children. They grew up with that, and now they're watching the redone version on
Yeah.
Netflix. How is that?
They were just in Fortnite not too long ago. So
Exactly. They're building that generational bridge. So have you kind of experienced that at conventions where it's like, oh my God, I'm rewatching this with my kids, or I.
oh yeah, I mean I there have been quite a number of times when I meet three generations at once. There'll be the
Mhm,
parents of the kid who watched it, who is now 30 years old,
mhm.
who has his kids watching it. So I get grandpa, the mom and dad, and then the kids. So I mean, it's an ongoing thing, and I'm like, oh wow, that's really cool. Keep it going.
I feel like with Netflix with upscaling and re-releasing it, it's made it a way where it can bridge that generational gap of where, like you said, all those three generations are going to know who the original Blue Ranger, and they're going to know David, and they're going to know Austin, and they're going to know you. So I feel like it's, as somebody that grew up with it, it's just kind of a cool way to bring more generations in.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit. You've done, and you kind of alluded to this earlier. You thought Power Rangers would just kind of be an anecdote of, amongst everything else you've done. But you've worked both on and off screen as a writer and a producer for the show The Order.
Right.
So you're doing the off screen behind the scenes stuff. You're also doing the on screen stuff. How did this project come to be? What was the start with that?
So before I started doing conventions and stuff, there were a number of other Rangers that were already out there doing things. One of
Mhm.
those being Karen Ashley, the second Yellow Ranger.
Sure.
Wonderful. I love her to death. She's my little ball of sunshine. Um, Karen had, and they always ask him, we want to see you guys get back together. When are you gonna guys going to be on screen again?
Mhm.
And I think there were a number of attempts before where they would try to get some of the originals back together, and it always seemed to fall apart. Whether the money didn't come through, or the script just wasn't quite right, or whatever. And Karen kind of like put her foot down and said, "Okay, well, if we want to do something like this, I want to write it. I want to do this kind of thing."
Mhm.
And so she tried to develop a script, and she was talking with Austin about it one day at a convention they were at. And by this time, I'd done a number of shows with both Karen and Austin, convention shows, and Austin said, "Well, why don't you talk to Dave? Dave's a writer.
Mhm.
He might be able to help you out." So Karen emailed me, and then so we emailed back and forth, and then we talked on the phone, and kind of she, pitched the idea to me, and then we just started writing. And we found out right away that we had like this really great rapport
Mhm.
as writers, where I would send her something and she was like, "Oh, that's fantastic. What do you think about this?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a great twist." And we would just kind of build off one another. And
Sure.
we started off with this idea that we wanted to do sort of like a smaller cast kind of thing with maybe five or six cast members. And we were going to do like a Ocean's 11 kind of thing where
Okay.
there were these. They would turn the tables on a bad guy and steal all his money or something like that, and
Mhm.
along those lines. But then along the lines, things were developing in the real world that we thought we wanted to keep our finger on the pulse of what was happening, and there was a lot of more action oriented stuff going on. So we decided, okay, we're going to turn these guys into a non-governmental paramilitary group that wasn't associated with any world government, but would hop around the globe and take care of trouble spots. They would,
Sure.
they would take out a terrorist here, or they would do something over here, trying to keep the balance of the world, so it wouldn't tip one way or another, and we would all blow each other up.
Sure.
And and then, of course, because we like to mess with characters and stuff like that. Halfway through the script, there's a split between the team, and one team takes one side, and the other team takes another. And that's something that fans has always talked about, because at that time there was that there. I think it's still going on. There's the YouTube thing, the rap battles of history or whatever,
Mhm. Right.
and there was always in superhero fiction, there was always, the DC heroes versus the Marvel heroes, or the
Mhm.
X-Men versus the X-Men. So people have always wanted to see Power Rangers versus Power Rangers. And when, we talking about it, we were like, wow, people are going to see Austin and Walter fight. They're not going to be on the same team. They're going to be punching at each other. And then, so we wrote this script, and we were both very nervous about it, and Karen had arranged to have everybody come meet at Nakia's house.
Oh, okay.
But they didn't tell them that everybody else was going to be there.
Oh, wow.
So they would show up, and they were like, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" And so once everybody had gotten there, Karen presented the thing to them and said, "Here's the script. Please take it home, read it, tell us what you think about it, because we'd really like for you guys to be in it." And we expected that some wouldn't like it, or there would be like 48, 72 hours before we would hear anything back. But like within 2 or 3 hours, everybody was like blowing up Karen's phone saying, "When do we start? This is fantastic. I want to be in it right now." And and then like I can't remember the time frame, but I think it was 7 months after that. We were all in LA and we got together and filmed the trailer that we put up on the GoFundMe Kickstarter page or whatever. I
Mhm.
think it's still out there. I think you can still watch it. And every time I see it, I still get the chills because of the way it was cut together, and the guy that Karen had hired to direct it, and Johnny was there. Johnny Young Bosch
Mhm.
did a lot of the fight choreography for the trailer and stuff. And seeing all those guys, seeing all those Ranger actors there in one place, doing these fight scenes and stuff, it was really really something. But unfortunately, when we all reconvened together and had all of our equipment, had all of
Mhm.
our sites set up, we were like 4 days away from going in front of the camera. The union stepped in and shut it down, and
Mm,
yeah, it broke Karen's heart. And I think everybody was just really disappointed about it. And then after that, it just kind of like lost all of the momentum. So it's just kind of sitting on the shelf, like a lot of projects do.
right.
So yeah,
And that's something you don't see like outside of a convention. You don't see Rangers together on screen all that often. So that's
yeah,
such a unique thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So how do you kind of approach balancing between an on-screen and an off-screen, being the on-screen character, but also being an off-screen producer, writer? How do you kind of balance that,
Well, for me,
that?
there really isn't that much of a balance because I'm not that comfortable being on camera anymore. I
Okay.
would much rather be behind the scenes, writing dialogue or scene work and stuff. And I don't know at what point in my life I decided that, yeah, I kind of did that and I don't want to do that anymore. And I just really concentrated on storytelling and writing. So that's where I'm most comfortable these days. So
So,
yeah.
so it was that kind of your educational background? Was that kind of what you originally went to college to try to focus on?
Well, I mean, I went to college to be an actor.
Mhm.
When I was a child, I would make my parents sit in the garage and watch me act out my comic books because I had to tell stories, and I would write things down for my brother and sister. And then I played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons in high school and got to write stories and create characters then. So it's always been a part of who I am to tell
Sure.
stories or to write things down. But for a long time, from the middle of high school through my mid 30s, I was very performance oriented. I
Mhm.
wanted to be in plays and on stage, and but I did learn early on that, I mean, and it's it's a part of the business that the camera likes certain people and it doesn't like other people. And I think I have one of those frames that is like, the camera's like, yeah, I think we can find somebody better for this. So, and I'm okay with that. I mean, I much rather tell the story than actually be the story. So, yeah.
So that's how you found your kind of your home then of doing the writing and the
Yeah.
dialoguing and all of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you've also done some video game voice acting, and that compared to being a writer, compared to what you did with Power Rangers with Zordon, do you kind of have to approach each project in a different creative space? How does that kind of work when it's a different medium?
Well, what I learned doing voice work that started on Power Rangers was that it almost sometimes requires twice as much energy
Sure.
to do the voice work than it does the on camera work. Because when you're on camera, you can do a lot of things with your body, physical movements and stuff that will communicate to somebody watching, saying, "Oh, that's how they're feeling," or "That's what they're doing." When you're in the booth and it's just your voice, you have to convey the same information, but just vocally. So, I mean, you're working twice as hard doing the voice work. So, I mean, when I was doing the voices for the video games, they weren't as sophisticated as they are now.
Sure.
The game engines were simpler, and the animations for the characters were simpler. So there wasn't a whole lot of grand writing being done for video games back in those days. But it was a lot of fun to be in the booth and to see how the game was put together, and then get to write for video games, write hint manuals, and
Mm.
uh, I really got into computer gaming in the 90s and stuff, and find fun times exploring that. And I still play computer games these days. I mean, it's just part of our modern entertainment industry. So,
The 90s were a great time to get into computer gaming. You saw some really cool franchises come to
oh
life.
yeah, 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 Doom and Quake
Mm.
and
Fallout and
yeah, Half-Life, all these are like amazing
Half-Life.
games. And then there's all these wonderful RPGs, Diablo, Baldur's Gate,
Mm.
all this kind of stuff. And thankfully, a lot of them have been preserved on Good Old Games. You can go find them. You can find the games that I did voices for on Good Old Games. Sanitarium was great because it takes place in a character's mind, and I played the evil doctor in that one. So it was,
That must have been that's such a sharp contrast from like Zordon. You go from being the fearless leader to the evil genius.
oh yeah, well, get to playing a bad guy is great because you get to chew the scenery and do all the fun
Hmm.
stuff. So yeah.
I've heard that from multiple people. Sometimes it's just really fun to play a villain and just
Oh yeah, because you
be in
get
that
to,
sandbox.
yeah, there's no restraints. You can just let go.
Hmm.
It's awesome.
You still what are some of the games you're playing now on PC?
I'm only playing one right now, and that's this zombie survival game called 7 Days to Die, and I play that a lot. Christopher Cayman Lee and I sometimes stream it together, and we go hunt zombies and stuff. So yeah,
That's awesome. Well, appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, C2E2 will, as of recording this, we're just about a month and a half away.
yeah,
You will be at table 1617 with the good folks at Formula 350. So
that's right.
if when you're not on a convention floor, where can people keep up with you and everything that's going on in your world?
The best places they can find me are either on Instagram at DJ Fielding underscore Zordon or on TikTok at DJ Fielding. And those are the two places you can find me. So, yeah, because I'm not on Twitter or Facebook these days. So, yeah.
Can't say I blame you. So, perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Always fun to chat Power Rangers. Always fun to chat everything else that's going on in your world. And if you are going to C2E2, table 1617, Formula 350, come say hi to David as well as Jason Font and Michael Capon and Philip Andrews. So it's going to be a really fun weekend.
Awesome.
So thank you again, and we'll keep all of your links below.
Okay. Thanks very much.